8 out altogether. Salo out, Deniz out, Brundle went off and out of the race. Jos Verstappen is out, David Coulthard is out with that gearbox problem. Pedro Lamy retired, then Eddie Irvine went out with a problem that we don't know, and Johnny Herbert retires on lap 39 out of 77 with Jacques Villeneuve leading on lap 39.
And Villeneuve looking very much in control here. He's gradually eking out the gap over Michael Schumacher. He's going up by about a second a lap. Schumacher clearly finding the Ferrari still not quite a match for the Williams of Villeneuve. Villeneuve has been on such good form this weekend. To come here on his first visit and to be challenging for the pole has impressed so many people. It's a circuit I think that suits him quite well. It's a circuit that's bumpy and he's used to throwing the car around, pitching it over the curves, and therefore I think he finds the bumps less unsettling than perhaps Damon Hill does. Now the good thing for Villeneuve is that his biggest challenge is obviously going to come from Schumacher, reliability permitting, and it looks to me as if both these two are on the same refuelling strategy, the refuelling routines. They both made their first stops, Schumacher on lap 19 and Villeneuve on lap 21, fairly close to each other, fairly consistent in terms of length of stop. But it's now they're on their 39th lap, and they were going to make the first, or we were going to be the second of 3. I would have thought it would come in the next couple of laps. And so far, no sign of activity in the pit lane. Yes, there is, I beg your pardon. We have Ferrari ready to go. So, Schumacher surely going to be coming in for his second stop, and there he is.
Yes, Michael Schumacher in, and this will certainly let Damon Hill through into second place. He was only 12 seconds behind the Ferrari on the previous lap. Keep an eye on Schumacher. I'll keep an eye on the track and tell you when Damon Hill goes through as you watch Schumacher in. There is Hill. Hill is up into second place, and Schumacher, who was being caught at the rate of 1.5 seconds of a lap, accelerates out. Now Alesi has not gone through, so Schumacher should rejoin the track in third position. Yes, he does, and in the background you see Jean Alesi coming round the last right-hander into the start and finish straight. Still fourth, Berger still fifth, Häkkinen still sixth, and Rubens Barrichello, who is seventh, has been lapped.
Williams are ready too, mechanics there, tyres ready. Now this could be either for Villeneuve or for Hill. We think both have got 2 more stops to go, because of course Hill did do that last. It was a late first stop, it was a very short first stop, and it's Villeneuve. Villeneuve's coming in. Now he's got nothing to worry about. He's well ahead of Michael Schumacher. In fact, he was about 16 seconds behind, so it needn't be a stop, but it's honed right down to the last tenth of a second. It's important for it not to make any mistakes, and it's probably going to be around about 7 seconds.
Damon Hill in second position now, of course, and so watch Jacques Villeneuve. His lead over Damon Hill was some 28 seconds, so there should be absolutely no problem about the Canadian exiting the pit lane and rejoining the track in the lead ahead of Damon Hill. Well, there he goes. Barrichello goes through, and Damon Hill has just gone past my commentary box, so there's about 5 seconds in it between Villeneuve in the lead and Hill in second position. But Villeneuve has stopped twice, Hill has stopped once. There is Schumacher in third position, and he is some 20 seconds ahead of Jean Alesi. Williams-Renault leads. Williams-Renault second, Ferrari third, Benetton Renault's fourth and fifth. So Renault engines are 4 of the top 5 places, an excellent performance. Häkkinen in 7th place. His teammate David Coulthard is out of the race. Barrichello is 7th. His teammate Martin Brundle is out of the race.
Right now, you can lease a Suzuki X90 for just $189 a month for 24 months. And in case you were wondering what the heck an X90 is, it's the most fun you can have on 4 wheels. Summer's too short to drive a boring car. So visit your Suzuki dealer and check out the X90 for the summer's hottest lease rate, or call for the dealer nearest you.
When people hear the Hendrick Motorsports team switch to Quaker State this year, they'll probably think Quaker State wrote us a big check. Well, that's not how it happened. First it had to pass our camshaft test. Then it had to pass our dyno test. Then it had to pass a track test. Then they wrote us the big check.
Quaker State. exceeds the highest standards for engine protection. The body tenses. The pulse quickens. The crowd roars. And the fan waits. Because his devotion, Bobby, has just turned deadly.
Start her up, Bobby! What do you want from me?
I want every time they think of you, they're going to think of me.
The Fan. At theaters Friday.
While we were away, Damon Hill, the current championship points leader, in for his second stop for Williams. Villeneuve continues to lead. Michael Schumacher has gone by now into second place. Now the question is, can Damon Hill get out in time to hold on to third ahead of Sean Alesi? And he just manages to do it. So it's Villeneuve, Schumacher, Hill, Alesi. 2 pit stops gone in Hungary.
But they really haven't got an awful lot to be proud about after Germany, after the preceding races. And look at the way Michael Schumacher cants his head over. That's to clear the airbox and let the maximum amount of air through to the V10 engine behind him. So there goes the German. The car is running reliably, which is more than you can say about that of his teammate Eddie Irvine. And there are now 12 competitors left on lap 43 out of the 20 that started, the most recent retirement being that of Johnny Herbert. Lavargi, who is in 12th position in the Minardi, has been lapped twice. Rosset, who is 11th, Katayama, who is 10th, Parnis, who is in Frenson, who is 9th, and Parnis, who is 8th, and Barrichello have been lapped once. I understand that Tony Jardine has got the answer to Eddie Irvine's problem. Tony?
Yeah, we had a quick word with him. Naturally enough, Eddie was very disgruntled, very unhappy, making his way back up to the pits after his walk-in. It was gearbox failure yet again, and I stress it wasn't the new gearbox that he tested last week at Monza, it was the older one, but gearbox failure again for Ferrari.
Well, Tony says yet again, so perhaps a bit of explanation. Ferrari intended to start the season with a trick gearbox of titanium and Kevlar, a unique construction. It had a great deal of problems in retaining oil and retaining the parts inside it, and they've moved back to the original gearbox and then to a revised version of the new one, but it's clearly still the Achilles heel. Coming towards us is Sean Alesi. He's in 4th place, and again we've got the two Benettons almost on the track with each other, because Gerhard Berger, you'll just see him come round. No, you won't. You almost saw him come round the corner in 5th place.
And just going back a few laps, that pit stop from the Williams team for a Hill looked particularly fast. It was that 6.7 second stop which got Hill out, crucially, ahead of Jean Alesi. Now that's particularly good because Alesi now has done 2 pit stops to Alesi's 1, and I really would have thought Alesi will be the next person to pit. I don't think he can get away with just one more stop. It may be that I'm wrong, but currently he certainly seems to be showing signs of staying right out there. Now I do believe that we've got just one more stop for Hakkinen and Berger. Meanwhile, Villeneuve looks very comfortable indeed, but Damon Hill is actually closing up on Michael Schumacher. He's taking about a second a lap of Schumacher, and both have completed the same number of stops. Both, I think, have got one more stop to go, like Jacques Villeneuve. So I think Damon Hill's got a very real chance, if not of winning this race, but even that is quite possible. He's only 25 seconds behind Villeneuve now. There are still some 33 laps to go. So if Hill really puts the pedal down, if he really finds the kind of pace, digs deep as he's done so many times before, Damon Hill could still yet challenge Jacques Villeneuve. We have seen that he's been setting fastest laps. He still holds the fastest lap of the race here at 1 minute 20.2. Villeneuve is currently lapping at 1:21.0, so there is potential there for Hill to win this race yet.
And before Damon came in for his last pit stop, he was catching Michael Schumacher at the rate of 1.5 seconds a lap. He's doing exactly the same thing again now, and really eating into the Ferrari's lead. And Schumacher must have some sort of a problem when you remember how quickly he went in qualifying to go faster than everything, including the 2 Williams Renaults of Jacques Villeneuve and Damon Hill. And yet in the race, he is lapping that much slower. He is now 16.5 seconds behind Villeneuve and about 9.5 seconds in front of Damon Hill.
Well, yes, Murray, that's exactly what we thought at the German Grand Prix when Schumacher was right up with Williams and Benetton in qualifying, and yet was about a second a lap off the pace in the race, and despite being on the same strategy. So it seems, as Olivier Panis comes in for his second stop, I beg your pardon, it seems that Schumacher can actually qualify better than he can race. Now, there are two reasons for that. One, the most likely may be that Ferrari put in particularly powerful qualifying engines that don't have the reliability to enable them to be used in the race. So they put in a less powerful engine for the race, whereas Williams with the Renault engine, a much more proven engine, run pretty much the same horsepower for qualifying all the race. And the other thing is that Schumacher maybe just digs so deep to find that pace that puts him up the front in qualifying, and he just physically cannot, and quite reasonably so, cannot maintain that throughout the race. But I would have thought the biggest factor is probably the engine.
Of the teams that are running, who's looking good and who's looking not so good? Williams are looking good, first and third. Ferrari not looking all that good, although Schumacher is second. Irvine is long since out of the race. Benetton not really looking good by their lofty World Championship standards of 1995. Fourth and fifth for Alesi and Berger. McLaren not looking at all good. Hakkinen is 52 seconds behind race leader Villeneuve, and Coulthard is out of the race.
And Benetton are getting ready for someone to come in. It could be Berger or Alesi, but I'd certainly favour Alesi. He's the one I'd expect to come in earlier. Now, what we need to look at is whether or not this is going to be his last stop or his penultimate one. If it's going to be around about 5 or 6 seconds, it will be, I think, the second of 3. If it's going to be more like 8 seconds, maybe 9 seconds, it'll be his last one. They might just be putting a lot of fuel in it to get to the end of the race. But Berger's looking in pretty good shape. He's only 4.5 seconds behind Alesi. And again, it's my suspicion that if this is Alesi, we'll see Berger stay out for another 5 laps to make sure that his next stop will indeed be his last.
Now, did you register that caption? Michael Schumacher only 5 seconds ahead of Damon Hill, with Alesi in the pits from 4th position and out. So, Damon Hill now within striking distance. 3 laps and he'll be up behind Michael Schumacher, but I hesitate to utter the cliche yet again, but that won't stop me from doing it. The cliche, of course, being catching is one thing and passing is another. And Michael Schumacher, seeing the prospect of 6 World Championship points for second place rather than 4 for third, if he lets Hill pass him, is going to be driving a very wide Ferrari. You can see that Frentzen in the Sauber, who has been lapped and is behind Michael Schumacher, is holding tolerably well.
Sometimes you come to regret the decisions you've made in life, but not when you choose Yokohama Performance Radials. With over 75 years of tire engineering excellence and long-lasting traction, they give you control when you need it most, no matter what the driving conditions, wet or dry. Yokohama Performance Radials. Now you've got control.
The country up here, it's what you want to do. You can't fake your freedom, and you know you can't fake smooth.
Well, I'm going up the country, baby, don't you want to go? Yes, I'm going up the country, baby, don't you want to go? Well, yes, I'm going somewhere where I've never been before.
Main and river, please, driver.
Sure.
You're a B.
Uh-huh.
So it's okay. Listen, can I ask your opinion about something?
I've heard it all.
Well, this started yesterday.
You tried Honey Nut Cheerios.
Right. With toasted oats.
Crunchy, eh?
And that taste of honey and nuts.
Honey.
Just the right sweetness, you know?
Sure do.
I can't resist them.
That's normal. I'm seeing a lot of it.
Hey, I'm normal.
Try Honey Nut Cheerios. A honey of a taste you can't resist.
How do you drive? Exactly.
Jacques Villeneuve continues to lead at Hungary, but the race is for second place, with Damon Hill quickly closing on Michael Schumacher. Separated now by about 3.5 to 4 seconds. Hill from Schumacher And remember, all three, Villeneuve, Schumacher, Hill, still have one more pit stop in Hungary.
Well, the fact is that Damon Hill's first pit stop was faster than that of Jacques Villeneuve, and his second pit stop was faster than that of Jacques Villeneuve. So, yeah, I'm only talking about tenths of a second, but they all matter. And here he is. It was 3.6 seconds between him and Schumacher, but he's closing, there's no doubt about that. Lap 49 then, there is the Ferrari, here is the Williams, second place Schumacher, who is coming up behind the Minardi of, I didn't see who it was, I just saw the Minardi, and I'll soon tell you whether it was Lavaggio or Pietro Lamy, because they are, no, Lami's out of the race, so it's Lavaggio, who is about to be lapped for the fourth time. Here he is, there is Lavaggio with the green wing, there is Schumacher, there is Damon Hill. Now, Giovanni, move over. Giovanni, move over. Hello. Giovanni, move over. Damon's getting closer. And Schumacher is being held up in these bends.
Now, it could be the smart thing to do for Williams to actually bring Hill in for his final stop now, as we watch Berger come in for his final stop. The reason being that two things. One, Hill's actually caught up with Schumacher. We know he can lap faster. We know that Schumacher cannot himself go any faster. And therefore, Hill is destined 8 seconds, 8.7. That's enough for Berger to get to the end of the race. So that's him done and dusted on pit stops. Watch out for Mika Häkkinen. He's going to be coming in for his second and last one in the next few laps too. But as I say, Damon Hill could benefit from coming in now because he's going to get held up by Schumacher. He can get enough fuel into that car to get to the end. We've seen Berger do the same. So let's just see.
And what were those metallic spring-looking things as Berger came in and drove over them? They are earthing strips to get rid of any static that the car may have built up. And Jean Alesi passes Gerhard Berger, as does Mika Häkkinen. So there's a change in places as a result of Gerhard Berger's pit stop. Not unexpected, naturally. And now we can savour the battle between the double world champion who has won 20 Grand Prix, Michael Schumacher, and Damon Hill, who has yet to win a world championship but has won 20 Grand Prix, exactly the same number, 40 between the two of them. And they are the traditional rivals in Formula One these days. First and second in the World Championship last year and the year before. Frentzen into the pits from 8th position, a lap down. The only Sauber Ford still running with Johnny Herbert out of the race. 12 cars and drivers still competing. Damon, now, there's Barrichello trying to get past Katayama. Salo long out of the race. Now they're having a race of their own. Coming up behind them are Schumacher. Now Barrichello is going to be very interested in getting past the Tyrrell. He won't be nearly as interested in moving over and letting Schumacher through. And Schumacher's got Damon Hill right behind him.
Now Schumacher and Hill both need to come into the pits now because these two ahead of them may well hold them up for some time. They may get by, but it's a big gamble. And if they come into the pits now, they can get enough fuel in to get to the end of the race comfortably, almost, and have the last stint, as long as it would be if it was going to be. And in goes a Jordan, so that's one of them out of the way. So that's one solution to it. So that's Barrichello in for his second and last stop. But Hill still needs to come in, even if Schumacher doesn't, because Hill is still going to get held up. So I will predict that Hill will be in the next 2 or 3 laps. Certainly the next 2 laps, maybe even the end of this lap.
Remember Australia, 94. Remember Silverstone, 95. Damon Hill trying to get past Michael Schumacher in a Benetton on both those occasions. Well, the situation is much the same now. The car is different as far as Michael Schumacher is concerned. Barrichello out of the pits. And now Katayama is the man that they've both got to get past. Ukyo Katayama from Japan, the best Grand Prix driver that Japan has ever produced. And both the Williams and the Ferrari pits are putting their mechanics out as into the pit lane for a stop comes Mika Häkkinen, who was in 4th position as a result of the stops that had happened in front of him, moved up from 6th to 4th. And we're concentrating on this activity now, or rather the producer is. And meantime, Damon Hill and Schumacher, I can't tell you whether they've got past. Yes, they have. They have both got past Ukyo Katayama, who must have moved over to let them through, because the positions are exactly the same. And Frentzen is still in the pits, and it looks as though this time no Saubers are going to finish. And into the pits comes Michael Schumacher. Into second place goes Damon Hill. Now, if this is, well, and smoke from the front tyres of Michael Schumacher's car. Now, let's see, rolls into the pit lane over those earthing strips, as usual. Back of the car up, front of the car up, 4 wheels off, 4 wheels on. Fuel filler in, fuel filler out. And away goes Michael Schumacher. Now, is he rejoining in front of... Yes, he's bound to retain his place.
Well, I think that was some real last-minute thinking, both from Ferrari and particularly from Damon Hill in Williams. And I suspect if Schumacher had stayed out, Hill would have come into the pit lane then for his stop. We know the Williams crew were all out there. It's not for Villeneuve. We know it's there for Hill. And now Hill needs to stay out there, assuming he's got the fuel to do it. We know that his previous stop was a quick stop, so he can't have too much fuel in that car. He won't be able to stay out for very long as Frenson's race comes to an end. But what he does need to do is get enough track advantage. He needs to punch in some fast laps now to make sure that he can get ahead of Schumacher when Hill does come in for his stop. It shouldn't be too much of a problem. We know that Hill was capable of lapping faster than Schumacher, and it looks clear that Schumacher was nearer the end of his fuel and therefore running at least as light as Hill. But Hill can't be too careful, and he needs to run now with clear track ahead of him for as long as he can, as long as his fuel load will allow, before coming in for his final stop. And by doing that, I'm sure that he'll be ahead of Schumacher when he comes out.
Well, unlike Germany and Silverstone, I'm not going to criticise Damon Hill's start, which cost him dearly, because I remind myself and you that he was on the dirty side of the track, which he was talking about so much, which gave Schumacher and Villeneuve that you're looking at an advantage when all the lights went out and the race started. And yet again, Tony Jardine is with Johnny Herbert, who is out of the race.
Johnny, it was going well, so great disappointment to retire.
No, it's a bit of a shame. Qualifying's gone very well. I wasn't very happy with the engine this morning, but they did some work, and it was good again in the race. But we'll have to see.
So what finally went?
The engine, which was a bit of a shame, because he just suddenly went.
Now, before that, you were battling away. Things seemed to be going all right.
Yeah, no, it was going good with Mika. The car had a good balance, but the engine let go, so when that happens you can do nothing.
Can you use this engine again at Spa?
I hope so.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Well, sad that both Johnny Herbert and Frenson should go out. I'm sure with engine problems for them both, but that's no damnation of Ford there, because they worked very hard indeed to improve the performance. This has been the biggest step forward they've made all year, and it showed in qualifying. They knew they were taking a gamble racing it, and the fact that it's expired prematurely will not totally surprise them, but they would have learned undoubtedly from it, and no doubt go better as the season goes on.
We can go.
Okay, I'll go get him. It's nighttime.
Oh, yeah.
When you want to get festive. If anything holds you back, hey!
Hairboy!
Let's go. Remember, it's your duty to motivate.
Allow me. Can I motivate or what?
Dry brewed. 5.5% alcohol. Molson Dry. This could be good.
Let's go, service guy, let's go. Hey, hey, let's go, service guy, let's go. What's up? What's going on?
Should take me about an hour tops.
We've got tickets to the game.
Yeah.
We've planned this for a month.
Yeah.
We're gonna miss the first period.
Not necessarily.
Gentlemen?
Where'd he go?
This is weird.
At your Chrysler Canada dealer, we understand your vehicle. We understand you.
Sea-Doo, the best-selling boat in the world. Visit your Sea-Doo watercraft dealer today. At $57.99, everybody's doing it. Buy one now. Make no payments till January 1997.
With 22 laps remaining, Jacques Villeneuve continues to lead by some 26 seconds over his teammate Damon Hill, who has really made a remarkable comeback after he fell back to fourth at the start. You're watching the battle between Lacey and Berger. That's the fourth position. 4 and 5. Michael Schumacher currently running in third. Remember as well, Villeneuve and Hill still have to make one more pit stop in Hungary.
Olivier Panis. 8th is Rubens Barrichello, who's been lapped. 9th, 10th and 11th. And the remaining runners are Katayama, Rosset and Lavaji. So there are 9 retirements out of the 20 starters.
And with 20 laps left to go, we've got another pit stop yet for Damon Hill and for Jacques Villeneuve. Now Villeneuve being 26 seconds ahead, 25.6 seconds as my monitor changes in front of me. Villeneuve will be able to get into the pits and out again ahead of Damon Hill as we look at Gerhard Berger. Have a bit of a slide there, chasing John Lacey. But that won't really matter because Hill's going to have to come in anyway. So I don't think we're going to see Hill be able to challenge in any way at all Villeneuve unless Villeneuve has a problem. So that's going to remain pretty much the same. Schumacher also has had his last stop and he's destined for third, reliability allowing, and of course we know there's a big question mark about that. There's also a big question mark about, I think, about Jean Lacey. He's currently fourth. Gerhard Berger, as we see, is right on his tail. But the question is, does Lacey have to come into the pits for a bit more fuel or not? I find it hard to believe that Benetton, who are past masters of strategy, would have given him the strategy, or a strategy, requiring that to be the case. But on the other hand, he wasn't in the pits for very long on that last stop, and he was still at 30 laps to go to the end of the race. So that's one to watch out for, but certainly Villeneuve, certainly Hill are going to have to come in.
And as you've just seen, Jacques Villeneuve going round turn 1 at the end of the lap is not all that far behind Lacey and Berger, who are fighting for 4th position. That means to say he's nearly a lap ahead of him. Now, if things stay as they are now, the gap in the championship between Jacques Villeneuve, who is second, and Damon Hill, who is leading the championship, will have been reduced to 17 points with 40 points still to win, so it's still absolutely wide open. Big problem for Villeneuve, of course, is that he doesn't know the brilliant Spa circuit in Belgium, which is the next race, but then not knowing Hungary doesn't seem to be much of a problem for him. He qualified third, could have taken pole position, and has brilliantly led the race for most of the way.
Well, Williams obviously ready there. I wonder if it's for Damon Hill, because he's far enough at 32 seconds ahead of Schumacher to have no problems getting out ahead of the German. Whereas if they stop Villeneuve at the moment, that'll put him right back with Damon Hill, and they could probably do without, albeit the very slight chance of the two Williams drivers stumbling over each other into that first corner. Well, I was clearly wrong there, because there he is, Jacques Villeneuve coming in. Hill will be in surely in the next lap or so after that, and we're looking at about another 7-second stop to get Villeneuve to the end of the race. He's going to be coming out very close, I would have thought, to Damon Hill, and indeed just one further lap before Hill himself will pit. We saw incidentally Villeneuve give that jab of brakes. That's where the speed limit starts. There's 50 miles an hour speed limit in the pit lane, and that's necessary for safety reasons. Then we are coming out. Well, it's quite a long stop. It's a long stop. It's a very long stop. There's a problem with the right rear wheel, and this is precious time. This is the opportunity that Damon Hill's going to be looking forward to. 14.8 seconds. That's 8 seconds longer as a result of that. Hill therefore goes through, so Hill now leads. Villeneuve in second. Well, Villeneuve's lead was 16 seconds. He's had that cut back to what's going to be about 8 seconds, and this really could give Damon Hill the scent. He may yet be able to do something about it, though. Of course, Villeneuve will physically be in front on the track, but we could well see a tight finish to the race as a result of that. Problem with the right rear wheel nut on that Williams of Villeneuve.
Wheel nuts seem to be a Williams Achilles heel. It was here in Hungary in 1987 that Nigel Mansell lost a wheel nut from the front wheel to cause his retirement. He subsequently went on and won brilliantly for Ferrari in 1989. And then Mansell, of course, had a wheel nut problem in Portugal, and there have been others. I don't know why Williams would have the problem and not other people, but it does seem to affect them. As you watch Michael Schumacher, and he is circulating in about 1 minute 22.5 seconds. He's in third position. He is enough distance in front of Berger to hold the position, with the Lacey fifth, and of course Damon Hill in the lead now with Jacques Villeneuve down to second place. If is Damon Hill coming in?
Now that view that we've got through the camera is probably not far off the view that Michael Schumacher may have through his visor. It's unbelievable, but despite having rip-offs on the front of the visor, once those have expired and you've thrown away your last one, I don't think Michael has looking at him. Once you've thrown away your last one, the amount of debris and oil that builds up progressively on the visor is absolutely extraordinary. And as a driver, you get used to it. You get used to your vision being progressively more obscured. You adapt to it. And the real surprise comes at the end of the race as you tour in after your final lap. You come back to the pits, into the parc fermé, lift your visor, and you cannot believe how little you could see when you see how much daylight there is without the visor. But Williams are having a look at getting ready. We just saw one or two of them coming out of the pit lane. We've got this final stop for Damon Hill to come. We wonder whether Jean Alesi will need to stop again. And Berger's got ahead. Berger's ahead now of Jean Alesi. Well, it was really all a bit academic then for Jean Alesi. I suspect that he won't need to. And Berger proving there that his two-stop strategy worked well. Berger finished third in last year's Grand Prix after Schumacher had a very uncharacteristic problem with his Benetton Renault. The fuel pump failed with 4 or 5 laps to go, handing third place to Berger. So it could just be the same here so far, because Schumacher, once again, is still going to be crossing his fingers, certainly mentally, that his Ferrari is going to keep going to the end of this race.
Perhaps race leader, Damon Hill. Now the gap was 14.4 seconds, and he's actually pulling away from Villeneuve on his new tyres, Damon Hill, because the gap has increased now to 15.5 seconds.
Kids. Darn kids. I don't understand. Darn kids. Kids. Darn kids. Darn grown-ups.
Thank you for making McDonald's Arch Deluxe the country's favorite new burger.
I don't know what that
But please, keep Canada beautiful.
With 25% more power, 16-inch wheels, dual airbags, and 4-wheel anti-lock brakes, it's one affordable luxury 4x4. The new Suzuki Sidekick Sport. Lease one now for only $299 a month. For a discovery drive, call your participating dealer today. Suzuki. Ask anyone who owns one.
Damon Hill's lead is down to 14 seconds over Jacques Villeneuve. Still waiting, though, for Damon Hill to come in for his third and final pit stop, and then imagine what the race will be. Can Hill get in front, in and out in time to hold off Jacques Villeneuve, or will Villeneuve win his third, possibly win his third race of this season? Back to Hungary.
It's handling, because, as I said, the brilliance of Schumacher can overcome the deficiencies of the Ferrari for one lap. But to overcome them for 77 laps is a very different thing altogether. And Gerhard Berger has got the gap down now to under 19 seconds. And he's pulling away from Alesi, that Berger that is. Alesi, who is 5th, and he's now 2 seconds ahead of Jean Alesi. So Damon Hill coming through to complete another lap. The gap was 14.8 seconds as a result of Hill being held up by Lavaggi. We haven't seen whether Villeneuve has caught the Italian yet, and the gap is, well, I have to wait for Villeneuve to come through. There is Hill out of turn 1 into turn 2. Schumacher still holding that position, and again Gerhard Berger, and the Villeneuve is about the same distance behind.
Williams crew coming out. This is for Hill. Hill is 15 seconds ahead of Villeneuve, so that's going to let Villeneuve through. Now, we thought about 21 seconds, so that should end up with Villeneuve having about a 6-second lead over Damon Hill with some 15 laps to go. And that's the kind of lead that can be so easily lost with back markers. That could yet happen. A half spin from Villeneuve. He has been prone to having the odd incident. But he's going to put him still, he's going to put Hill, I should say, well ahead of Schumacher. Schumacher's 42 seconds behind Damon, so he'll still end up being some 20 seconds behind. So it's all about making it as sharp as possible, of course, getting into that pit lane, getting the brakes on for that speed limit zone, because the last thing that Hill wants now is a time penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and we've seen that happen from time to time. Through the last second gear corner, up the hill to third gear, and peeling off into the pit lane. Is it now? No, he's not. Yes, he is. He's coming in. And we're looking for about probably about 6 seconds. This could be a very quick one because we're beyond the 75% distance, and he's going to want every little bit of time he can get. See the black marks where odd cars, we saw Schumacher lock the wheels in a desperate attempt to make sure they get the speed right down. In he comes to a stop. Now let's watch that right rear wheel. We know that that was a problem on Villeneuve's car, and this is the kind of mistake. Well, it was very quick indeed, no problems at all. He keeps the same tyres on. Now that's interesting.
Villeneuve has gone through. Now there is Villeneuve, and here is Damon Hill. That's how close it is going to be. Remember, Damon Hill is still in the 75-mile-an-hour zone. He isn't now. He's out and will be giving it everything he's got. But on lap 64, Jacques Villeneuve retakes the lead in Hungary with 13 laps to go. Damon Hill in second place, very close, and he is, of course, on new tyres. Michael Schumacher limping along in comparative terms, still on the podium, but in the background you can see how close Gerhard Berger is, because Berger in fourth position, very close indeed to the Ferrari, but the battle up front is the one that's going to have everybody's attention with just those 14 laps to go.
Mountains have a rhythm, water has a groove. You can't fake natural, and you can't fake smooth.
Got no shirt, got no shoes, got no coat, so got me the blues. Yeah, I got no shades.
Hey! That's 'cause you got no Pepsi.
Now the more Pepsi you drink, the more stuff you get from the new Pepsi catalog.
Got no mansion, got no yacht.
This might be the end of the blues as we know it.
Drink a lot of Pepsi, get a lot of stuff.
This summer, TSN and Subway want you to put the bite on us to win. Win one of 6 weekly baseball or football prize packs, and all correct entries will qualify to win a grand prize trip to 2 World Series games or a trip to this year's Grey Cup game. Get an entry at participating Subway stores, then tune in and look for the Subway Bite during TSN baseball and CFL broadcasts, and mail in each week for a chance to win.
Easier to use, 2 more places from more places, with a savings plan that goes just about everywhere you do. Our calling card is the best card, period.
Welcome back to our coverage of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Gerhard Berger, you see him out of his smoking Benetton. Berger was running in 4th position, so Jean Alesi now moves up to 4th. It is Villeneuve, Hill, and the lead is shrinking. It was as much as 6.5 seconds. It is now down to 5.3 as we look at the Benetton go up in a puff of smoke in Hungary for the 2nd straight race. Berger's Benetton is bye-bye.
A cylinder head bolt problem with then got into the top of the engine and caused the engine to destroy itself, and that's exactly what's happened there. Now that's going to elevate Alesi, of course, up to 4th, Hakkinen into 5th, and Olivier Panis into 6th. But the gap from Villeneuve to Hill is now just 4.8 seconds. Villeneuve will be aware, clearly. It's 4.8 seconds on my screen at the end of the lap. I know you're looking at 5.8 there, but that's at a different point on the circuit.
Yeah, but Lavargi undoubtedly cost Hill time, something of the order of a second. But we're going to see now exactly what the situation is, because into his 66th lap goes Jacques Villeneuve, and here, bearing down on him, and as you can see, catching him 0.4 of a second, is Damon Hill. But he can whittle away at Villeneuve's lead, and even if he gets the nose of the Williams tucked under the diffuser of Jacques Villeneuve's car in front of him, if Villeneuve just holds his line, as Thierry Boutsen did in 1990 in Williams, then it's going to be Villeneuve's race, because Boutsen just stolidly, in a slower car than Ayrton Senna behind him in the McLaren, held his line, and even the brilliance of Senna couldn't get past the Belgian. And Damon Hill is really going for it. You saw him climbing the curbs there.
Yes, I think Hill's going to be right up with Villeneuve in the closing few laps of this race, but he's going to have a bit of a dilemma as to what he does about it. If it had been Schumacher ahead of him, I'm quite sure he would have settled for second place without any doubt at all, because Schumacher is no championship threat. Having said that, I still don't think he's going to be taking any chances. He still leads the championship, of course. He has 73 points. Villeneuve has 62. Now, if the result, or if the order stays as it is now, and Villeneuve wins from Hill, that's going to leave Hill on 79 points, Villeneuve on 62. It'll allow Villeneuve to eat into Hill's lead, but there are only 4 Grand Prix left after that, and at 10 points for a win, that's 40 points on the table, and Damon will have a 17-point lead, and that's fairly comfortable.
Let's go, service guy, let's go. Hey, hey, let's go, service guy, let's go. What's up? What's going on?
Should take me about an hour tops.
We've got tickets to the game.
Yeah.
We've planned this for a month.
Yeah.
We're gonna miss the first period.
Not necessarily. Gentlemen?
Where do you go?
I don't.
This is weird. At your Chrysler Canada dealer, we understand your vehicle. We understand you.
Sea-Doo, the best-selling boat in the world. Visit your Sea-Doo watercraft dealer today. At $57.99, everybody's doing it. Buy one now. Make no payments till January 1997.
Well, you see, it is 8 laps remaining, and Jacques Villeneuve continues to lead the Hungarian Grand Prix, but his lead now is down to 2.7, now 2.4 seconds over Damon Hill, as Jacques Villeneuve looks to win his 3rd event of the season. And if he does, that would equal the best ever season for his father, Gilles, who won 3 events in 1979. South Africa, USA West Long Beach, and of course, USA East at Watkins Glen. But it is slipping away, it seems. Damon Hill charging on Jacques Villeneuve late in Hungary.
This is lap 69, coming up to the completion of into lap 70, 77 lap race. And I'm very shortly not going to be bothering to tell you what the gap is in terms of time. You'll be able to see more than well enough what the gap is in terms of distance. And Damon Hill now faces the prospect of the implacable Villeneuve refusing, totally justifiably, to modify his line to let Damon Hill pass, because if he does, although it would help Damon Hill's championship chances, it would deter Villeneuve's, and Villeneuve knows he can still win this championship if he can keep up the sort of record that he has achieved with possibly a 3rd win here today.
Now, things are going to get interesting, I think, in about 4 laps' time, because then these two are going to come up across Mika Häkkinen. Häkkinen currently in 5th place in his McLaren. Now, he was only running a 2-stop strategy. Williams have run a 3-stop. So the Williams cars are quicker than the McLaren, apart from the fact they are anyway. They're also got tyres in better condition because they stopped later. They're lapping a 1.5 seconds faster, so we're going to get a bit of a queue. Now, the question is, how quickly will Mika Häkkinen That's Patrick Head talking, the technical director of Williams, to Dickie Stanford, the team manager, and I think they're pretty relaxed about it. Not as relaxed as Jacques Villeneuve. We see him again lock a wheel. We see that often with Villeneuve. He's not as stylish a driver as Damon Hill. Damon Hill very much in the Prost mould, never looks particularly hairy, but deceptively quick with it, whereas Villeneuve is all kind of arms and elbows, locking wheels, clipping the curbs, and generally has not gone quite as fast. He's harder on the car than Damon. He jabs on the throttle harder, he jabs on the brakes harder, and all of which means that his cars, I think, do get a harder time, and often Villeneuve upsets the car in just little tiny ways that just mean that he can't go quite as quickly as the very super smooth Damon Hill. But worth bearing in mind too that both these drivers will be absolutely worn out. Well, having said that, they're probably looking fresh as a daisy out of the car, but this is a long race. They've been racing now for 1 hour and 40 minutes, and this is the most physical circuit, I would say, of anywhere on the Grand Prix calendar. It's some 28 degrees out there. They've been stuck into their cockpits, 3 layers of Nomex overalls, their balaclava, their helmet, their visor, their gloves. There's no skin available for surface area, heat exchange. They're going to be very hot, easy to make a mistake. That's what Damon's going to be hoping Villeneuve will do.
Coming up towards the completion of lap 71 with 6 laps then to go. And to underline what Jonathan was saying, I was talking to Alain Prost yesterday about his time with Damon Hill in 1993 when Prost won the World Championship, and of his own volition he was so impressed with Damon Hill that although Damon was supposed to be, and was in fact, number 2 to Prost, Prost asked that he be given equal number 1 status. So Paul Edwards, the fat controller as he's called in the Williams team because he does their catering, holds out the board which tells Damon Hill that he's 1.2 seconds behind Jacques Villeneuve. A bit irrelevant. As far as Damon's concerned, he can see exactly where Villeneuve is and he's going for it. Lap 72, and Prost also said there's been a lot of rubbish talk to Schumacher. Michael Schumacher retires from the Hungarian Grand Prix, as did Eddie Irvine, and that makes, gosh, I'm losing count now. This is what, 9 retirements from 10 starts for Ferrari. Believe me, this doesn't please me any more than it will please Ferrari fans all around the world. But the fact obviously is that Schumacher was struggling all the way for a long time, and that Ferrari is still very fragile. A lot to do, bitter disillusionment, bitter disappointment for Ferrari, but Alesi goes up into 3rd position, so Renault engines are now 1st, 2nd and 3rd. They've had a 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th this season, and this is what Jonathan prophesied. There is Häkkinen being caught by Jacques Villeneuve. Mika Häkkinen moves over but has to take the racing line on the corner to go round. I've no doubt that he'll let Damon Hill through as well, and he does so. Damon Hill goes through on the inside. This is lap 72, and you're going to see a tremendous fighting finish to the Hungarian Grand Prix. Just to put you in the rest of the picture, Alesi is 3rd. Häkkinen has been lapped and is in 4th position. No consolation for him there. Schumacher is out, so up to 5th goes Parnis, up to 6th goes Barrichello, up to 7th goes Katayama, up to 8th goes Rosset, up to 9th, the last runner on the track of the 20 who started, goes Giovanni Lavaggi, and there is the race.
Well, that's a nice surprise for Jacques Villeneuve and Damon Hill. I bet they didn't think that was going to be that easy. Well, they've got Ukio Katayama next, and ahead of Katayama is Barrichello, and both of these, Katayama lets them go by, but actually Villeneuve's had to go offline there. You see the dust come up, and that's going to lose Villeneuve a little bit of performance from his car. Similarly, though, that's going to afflict Damon Hill, but critically they are both ahead. See how Damon slid then through that chicane? That's a consequence of just getting offline. He done it again. You know, he got offline, he had to get offline to go by Katayama. It was a calculated gamble. It was worth going offline to get by quickly, but then he's lost some grip. Both have lost a little bit of grip. It looks like it's affected Damon Hill a little bit more than Jacques Villeneuve, because the gap seems to have increased. It has indeed, 0.3 of a second. That was a good race from Gerhard Berger. He's been deprived of good results, hasn't he, the last couple of races? He did so well in Germany, deserved to win there before his engine expired, and he would have been 3rd as it happened. I know a lot of people can say that, but with Schumacher's demise, the Benetons normally are very reliable, and it seems coincidental that it's Berger's Renault engine and not Villeneuve's, Hill's or Alesi's doesn't have a problem.
You could see his utter dejection from his body language, totally downcast. and with every justification. He has had a lot of trouble settling down in the Benetton team, as has Jean Alesi. I heard a very amusing, but I fear unrepeatable story about Jean Alesi at one of the tests recently, but which was a bit of temperament. But they are now showing signs of settling down, and if there are changes in the Benetton team's driver lineup next year, which are being talked about, it would seem odd, because the team and the drivers have invested a lot, and locks up. Villeneuve locks up. You can see how hard he's trying. This is lap 74. It's still Alesi third, Häkkinen, Parnis, Barrichello, but all the action is up at the front, and they're coming through to start lap 75.
Now, Villeneuve doesn't actually need to try that hard at the moment. He doesn't need to be, and indeed shouldn't be breaking that late that he's locking up, because even if he backed off a second a lap, there's no way that Damon Hill's going to get by, and Damon's biggest opportunity will come in such a manoeuvre as if Villeneuve does lock up. And indeed, he'd actually be better off just slowing up a little bit so that they don't come across Rubens Barrichello, because it's the fumbling over a back, well, you can hardly call Barrichello a back marker, although Jordan's performance has been well off the pace this weekend. It's the fumbling over someone that you're trying to lap can provide opportunity. We've seen Häkkinen move out of the way very graciously. We've seen them sweep past Ilkio Katiyamas Tyrrell. But it might not be the same there with Rubens Barrichello. Well, they're right up behind him. We're going to find out now.
Now, is Rubens going to move over? He's one of the chaps who's rumoured to be out of Formula One next year, possibly to go to Indy racing. There's the answer. He does so. And you may say, if this circuit is so dusty and it's the same every year, why on earth don't they clean it before the race? Well, I think that's a very good question, and I would like to know the answer to it as well. But the fact is that it is, and it remains very dusty, and if you get off the racing line, you raise the dust can get in your tyres, you lose grip as a result of that, and if you lose grip, then you've got a major problem. So this is the completion of lap 75 into lap 76, and it's a 77 lap race, and there are the men who are first and second. It's seemingly going to be another Williams-Renault 1-2. I'll have to check, but I think that will be the fourth of the season. But whatever, who is going to win? I can't see. It's the fifth of the season. I can't see anybody other than Jacques Villeneuve winning, because I do not believe that Damon is going to risk losing points altogether when he's got 6 within his grasp, and there are still 4 races to go.
Now we can see that there. Damon settled for second. He's done the right thing. He's not going to take any chances. And what a wonderful Williams formation finish. What a great way to celebrate the winning the Constructors' Championship. But Villeneuve's done everything right here. He did very, very well in qualifying. Okay, he was third, but he was within a 1/10.5 of a second of poleman on his first visit. And what he did crucially was get off the line properly. He started well, made good use of being on the right side of the grid, and has done everything right on the way to winning this race. Damon Hill, meanwhile, did well in qualifying, second place. He was on that bad side of the grid. There was little he could do about the start, but he's driven superbly in the race. He's done as much as he could in this particular occasion, and it's merely the fact that he can't overtake because of the nature of the circuit that's going to mean that he's going to finish second. But he will nevertheless still maintain that 17-point lead in the championship. Schumacher showed that Ferrari are making progress, at least in qualifying. I'm not entirely convinced about the race. The Ferrari fragility still seems to be there. We saw it with the demise of Irvine and Schumacher, but nevertheless Ferrari are closing that gap, albeit with the masterful efforts of Schumacher at the wheel. Whereas behind that, and third place there, Alesi once again being the person that seems to bring these Benettons to the flag. I can't believe it's anything to do with Berger being hard on the car, but that's going to continue to close Alesi up. He's solidly in third place in the championship. Another 4 points will put him even more solidly in that position.
A wonderful, wonderful way for Williams to win their 8th Constructors' World Championship with a maximum 16 points, seemingly 10 from Jacques Villeneuve and 6 from Damon Hill. They only needed 2 points, even if both the Benettons had finished in first and second places. But now, with Alesi in third position and Berger out of the race, the Constructors' Championship is most certainly for Williams. But the Drivers' Championship is still wide open, especially if they finish in the order that they are in now. And they're going to do that because Villeneuve is up into the last corner. He's going to win his 3rd Grand Prix of the year in his first year of Grand Prix racing. Jacques Villeneuve wins in Hungary and beats Damon Hill by 6/10 of a a second. As close as that. Maximum points for Williams. It reduces that World Championship gap between Villeneuve, who is still second, and Damon Hill, who still leads, to a mere 17 points, with 40 points still to be won. The championship is wide open. Häkkinen finishes in 4th position, a full lap down. McLaren and Mercedes have still not got the answer. John Alesi finishes in 3rd position. There he is in the Benetton Renault. And Parnis has finished indeed, because he's been lapped. In 5th position in the Ligier, with Rubens Barrichello again getting a point. But just as this race result is not of any great interest to McLaren and Mercedes, with one car out and Häkkinen only 4th a lap down. So this race is not going to be of very much interest to Jordan, sadly, with Martin Brundle out when he went off the track in the early stages, and Barrichello 2 laps down. Jack Villeneuve, we're riding on the Williams Renault now, and he waves to the crowd. A lot of them will not be giving the sort of wave back that he would like to see, because there is a...
Congratulations to Jacques Villeneuve, who had a terrific start inside of row 2, made the most of his start, as Jerry Donaldson told us before the race in Hungary, and then used his pit stops to get in front and then hold off his teammate Damon Hill by less than a second. Jacques Villeneuve picks up his 3rd win of the season to equal the best ever season of his late father Gilles in 1979. It's Hill, Alesi, Häkkinen, Olivier Panis. A good result again for Ligier, and Rubens Barrichello and Jordan, the top 6 in Hungary.
Sometimes you come to regret the decisions you've made in life, but not when you choose Yokohama Performance Radials. With over 75 years of tire engineering excellence and long-lasting traction, they give you control when you need it most, no matter what the driving conditions, wet or dry. Yokohama Performance Radials. Now you've got control.
When you don't want the night to end, you have to pace yourself.
Claire.
Maintain a positive attitude.
A tattoo. Nice black boots.
And be prepared for anything.
Get to know the DJ.
Dry brew, 5.5% alcohol. Molson Dry. This could be good.
The diamond engagement ring. How else could 2 months' salary last forever?
I'm Jim McKay with an update from the 2020 Global Games. Graduated hurdles rose, but Great Britain fell. Nathan Rutter grabbed the ring and the gold for the U.S. Earlier today, Caswell Fowler executed the first perfect 10 multiple board dive.
The world of sports is ever evolving, but athletes of today can choose All Sports Body Quencher for fluid replacement, unsurpassed taste, thirst-quenching flavors.
Coming up later, the record-breaking 300-meter dolphin relay.
The Hungarian Grand Prix on TSN has been brought to you by Molson Dry. By your Chrysler Canada dealer, we understand your vehicle, we understand you. By Quaker State Motor Oil, exceeding the highest standards for engine protection. And by Yokohama Performance Radials, now you've got control. Well, he was terrific from the first moment he got onto the track in practice Friday, then qualified 3rd on Saturday, and today is the winner. Jacques Villeneuve, who readily admits that he adapted to this brand new circuit much quicker than he may have thought. And Jerry Donaldson joins us now from Hungary. Very impressive. And You know, thankfully, Murray Walker gave credit as we watched Damon Hill and Jacques Villeneuve now making their way to the victory stand. Murray Walker gave credit to Jacques Villeneuve for the input that he has with the team when it comes to setups.
Yes, Jacques has a very close relationship with his engineer, Jacques Clear, and they go a completely different way from Damon Hill. So, in fact, there are two separate factions within the team. It's friendly, but they don't exchange information. And obviously, Jacques' setup, which is his own setup for this race, worked well. I mean, it couldn't have been better.
Now, let me ask you, as the drivers make their way to the podium, would there have been any team orders here?
Frank Williams insists the only team orders he ever gives his drivers is don't crash. And I know he'll be one of the happiest men here at the Hungaroring because his team has won the championship, and they won it with a race between his two drivers at the finish. And Frank is a real racer. He will have loved this.
Wasn't that nice to see the Canadian flag among the flags in Hungary? And for the constructors, of course, the national anthem of Great Britain. I don't know, this is his third win, but I don't think in the first two we saw a smile as wide as that this time. Do you know why?
Yes, I'll tell you why. I'm sure he loves a fight. He's not happy with the runaway win. He enjoyed himself at the Nürburgring because Michael Schumacher was pressing him all the way, and Jacques will have loved those last few laps having to hold off Damon. They had the cars that were the class of the field. They nearly lapped Jean Alesi in third place, and they really made up for what had been a boring race, I think, the two Williams drivers by pushing so hard near the finish.
We pointed out during the race that, in fact, this is his third win of the season. This equals the best ever season of his father, Gilles, in '79 when he won South Africa and the two events in the U.S. Do you think that Jacques is aware of that?
Oh, deep down he might be, although he prefers to avoid even thinking about that kind of thing. He probably is aware of it. We must remember, though, that Gilles didn't always have the kind of equipment that Jacques has the benefit of this year. The Williams cars are by far superior to anybody else, and they certainly deserve the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, that brings up a point indeed, that the dominance of Williams, they win the Constructors' Championship, run away with it, obviously. What is this? I mean, I'll suggest to you that this cannot be good for Grand Prix racing.
The dominance of the Williams team, you mean?
Yes.
Well, in fact, I had a chat with Frank Williams yesterday about this, and I said that, Frank, how will you celebrate when you win the Constructors' Championship? He said, what do you mean when we win it?
Yeah.
He said, if we win it. He doesn't believe that their supremacy is that great, and that any race it can completely turn around and change. It's happened to him in the past, although there's no question that nobody's close to them here. Other teams have been closer on other circuits. This is a unique circuit. Williams is great in high downforce situations, and they certainly had the measure of everyone else here. But next race is in Belgium, high-speed circuit at Spa, could be wide open again.
Kerry, we'll take another break, and when we come back, we'll hear from the drivers themselves, and of course from Jacques Villeneuve, who picks up, yes, wave that flag proudly in Hungary. Jacques Villeneuve's a winner for the third time this season.
Right now, you can lease a Suzuki X90 for just $189 a month for 24 months. And in case you were wondering what the heck an X90 is, it's the most fun you can have on four wheels. Summer's too short to drive a boring car. So visit your Suzuki dealer and check out the X90 for the summer's hottest lease rate, or call for the dealer nearest you.
When the Hendrick team switched to Quaker State this year, I was talking with my crew chief about it, and he said they ran through all these tests. The dyno, camshaft test, and all these others, right? And the stuff beats all their standards. So I said, but don't forget, we won 8 races with last year's oil. And he said, yeah, but don't you forget, we also lost 24. Tough crowd. Dang, guys, come on.
Quaker State exceeds the highest standards for engine protection.
The diamond engagement ring. How else could 2 months' salary last forever?
Welcome back to our coverage of the Hungarian Grand Prix as we await the drivers' interviews following the third win of the season for Jacques Villeneuve, who impressively started on the second row right behind Michael Schumacher. Jerry Donaldson told us that he expected to go for it right off the start, and when Schumacher took the pole and Damon Hill, starting from outside row 2, was in that dirty part, Hill, of course, the bad start, fell back to 4th. Jacques Villeneuve then was up to 2nd, and through 3 pit stops it diced back in 4th, with Villeneuve finally taking the lead and going on to win by less than half a second over his teammate Damon Hill. Another bad day, though, for the 2 Ferraris, as both Michael Schumacher and Eddie Irvine failed to finish. The 1-2 finish by Williams gives them the Constructors' Championship. My goodness, it's been a runaway for Williams, who wins their 8th Constructors' Championship. Let's tell you about what's coming up on TSN. Lots of auto racing on Canada's leader of motorsports coverage. The Indy Lights were in Trois-Rivières. That was a week ago. You'll see David Empringham there. Coming up later today, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the Miller 200. Alex Zanardi is on the pole. Jimmy Vasser alongside. We'll have the Enduro Series, brought to you by Sony Minidisc, also from Trois-Rivières. What a great course that is, through the Duplessis Arch. And then, of course, coming up later tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, NASCAR. Dale Earnhardt is on the pole at Watkins Glen. It's all a matter of how long Dale Earnhardt can